So good morning, and good morning, guys. Welcome to another fabulous episode of Exit Strategies Radio Show. I'm your host, Corbin J. Millett, broker and owner of Exit Realty Low Country Group in beautiful North Charleston, South Carolina. If this is your first time listening to the show, you, sir, and ma'am, are in for a treat because our mission here is very, very, very simple. That is to empower our community through financial literacy and real estate education. We're legacy building. That is what we do. So, guys, you've been with us on an amazing journey. And, guys, today we do not stop. As one of my homeboys likes to tell me, can't stop, won't stop. That's how we get down. That's what we do around here. So we're always elevating. We're always making progress. We're always pushing forward. And most importantly, we're taking you along with us on the journey. So, guys, today we have managed again to get the time of someone who is doing the things in this industry, in this business, that many of us endeavor to do, and that is none other than Luke Andrews, real estate investor. Luke, how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, man. I appreciate it. How are you?
I am incredible. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to be on with us today. So, Luke, look, I ain't give our listeners like the real skinny, but we're going to talk about that as we kind of go through. So if you don't mind, to give our listeners kind of the elevators on speech version of who you are, your company, what do you do?
Sure. So as you talked about, I'm a real estate entrepreneur, and I really kind of have three facets to my business. I am a real estate agent. I do help people buy and sell homes. I have a real estate team. So I operate as like a sales director, essentially. I've got 21 agents underneath me. So a big portion of my day is recruiting, mentoring, training, kind of answering those quick little got a minute questions for them, making sure that they thrive. And then finally, the third aspect is real estate investment, like you talked about. Fortunate enough to be in a club of what I call the 40 under 40. So I was able to purchase 40 investment properties before turning the age of 40. Barely squeaked it in. Right before I turned 40, we closed on the 40th. Now I have sold a few here and there. I've kind of traded around, but have quite a bit of experience with it, and everything from single family to multifamily to fix and flips to flipping apartment buildings, and then also starting to venture now into a little bit of Airbnb as well.
Mm-hmm. So that is a broad swath, and we have been having a lot of conversations here on air about, matter of fact, I think nearly everything you just touched on. So I'm very excited, very anxious to kind of touch on some of these with you as someone who actually has done all. Sometimes people have only done one segment of the market, so to speak, as far as investing. Sometimes they've done a whole lot of others. So what first gave you the bug, man, as far as investing in real estate?
So from an investing perspective, it started, pretty simply how a lot of people probably start. My wife and I, we built our first house in 2006. We were young, newly married. We overbuilt for the neighborhood. And 2008, 2009 happened. And we were in a spot where we were starting to have kids. And so we needed a little more space. And we were fortunate enough to be able to carry both notes and be able to keep our first property as a rental. Because, during that time, it was very, very inexpensive to upgrade. Everything was on sale. But that also meant that our current house was underwater. We would have had to have brought a pretty sizable check to closing in order to be able to walk away from it. But we could carry both notes. The market was flooded with a lot of really qualified renters who just happened to get themselves in a bad spot for a little while and who needed a place to go. And so we rented that out. We upgraded. That was actually out in Denver, Colorado. And we moved to Kentucky a few years later, kept that rental. And I met somebody here who was also interested in real estate investing. And we just kind of started talking back and forth. And we're like, hey, you know what? We need to buy a property together. We got to partner up on this thing. And so we sold the property in Colorado because by that point, the market had kind of shifted a little bit. I was able to pull a little bit of cash out. And so I've got this buddy here. And we've identified a neighborhood that we feel like is really up and coming. And there's a spot we said, why don't we go find a little shotgun house, that needs some work, that we could
Mm-hmm.
pay $30,000 in cash for, do the work ourselves, and just gradually just start building a portfolio.
Mm-hmm.
So we were searching every single day. And his luck, fortune, whatever you want to call it, he is at his girlfriend's parents' house having dinner. They've got some friends over. And so they're talking and they're like, so what do you like to do, young man? And he's like, well, I do this and this for a corporate job, but my real passion is real estate investing. I'm looking at buying some properties. And they said, well, interesting enough, they owned a bunch of properties and they were looking to completely liquidate and retire. So, and we were like, okay, well, let's buy one or two of them. They said, no, you got to buy the whole package. We're only looking at the package. So we're trying to go from buying one property to all of a sudden 13 fall into our lap.
Uh-huh.
And it's one of those things where it's like, I could analyze the deal. I knew it was a great deal,
Uh-huh.
but there was no way in hell I had enough money to come up to be able to purchase 13 properties. And so we started asking questions. We went to some people that we knew that had bought properties before. We had them look at the deal for us to make sure we weren't crazy. And then just started asking questions like, hey, if you were in this situation, what would you do? What would you do? And
Mm-hmm.
we finally got one that said, well, if I was in your situation, I'd pick up a partner like myself.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well,
Mm-hmm.
that's interesting. We
Okay.
were talking about being partners on one. Why not be partners with somebody else on 13? The
Mm-hmm.
numbers still add up. Now, the problem is that even with bringing in this partner who had all of the contacts, the banks, the contractors, everything that we needed, we still didn't have enough for the down payment of our 50% of the down payment, which was
Mm-hmm.
broken up between the two of us. So really, I only had to come up with 25% of the down payment. My partner only 25%. We still didn't have enough.
Mm-hmm.
And so again, it was like, we keep hitting these roadblocks, but I said, what if, because we're going to have to manage these properties, we're going to have to hire a property manager.
Mm-hmm.
What if instead of hiring a property manager, we bring what we can, our new business partner makes up that difference for the down payment. We stay 50-50 partners, but we manage the property for free on a schedule that says that our equity will be paid back. So that did a couple of things for us. One, it got us in the game.
Yeah.
Two, it got us all that property ownership. And three, we learned so much managing those properties that it's just the time spent managing has been worth its weight 10, 20x over the years, just by going through and learning that. But it allowed us to get in and be equal partners and share in the financial upside without having to bring all of that cash on the front side. Because we just, like I said, we flat out didn't have it. And so at a certain point, the plan was that we were going to have that money paid back in about 18 months. We were actually able to end up doing it in 7 because we increased the rents so much. We turned them over, which brought it just accelerated that schedule. So that's really how we got into it. We kind of fell into this big thing by accident. And then we took 13 and all of a sudden another package of 27 came in. It's like, okay, well, now we've built up equity in this property over here. And so, no, I'm sorry, not 27, 14 that took us to 27. But we had built up the equity in the 13 that we could refinance out of it. We could pull some cash out to actually be able to pay for that 14. And so now our portfolio doubles. We go from 13 to 27 in a year and a half. Now, it's not always going to be that easy. And boy, there were days where I thought, what in the world did I do here? But it has been worth it over time. And I've not only helped build myself a portfolio and a nest egg and shown my kids a few things, but it allows me to better work with investors in my real estate sales business. I'm able to help significantly more investors because I know what I'm doing. I can come at this with some credibility and I can show you, yes, you can listen to what I'm saying because I've been there and I've done it.
And that's one of the things, Luke, that people miss. Like you have the experience, whether it be fortunate or unfortunate, you have the experience of not only the acquisition, but also the management, of the doors, because that's one of the things that a lot of people are missing. Maybe they can bumfuddle their way, if you will, through an acquisition, but what happens after? I sometimes talk and say this thing about, you see dogs chase cars. All right. When they catch the car, what is the dog going to do? Dog can't drive it. So, sometimes we chase after things and have no idea what we're going to do after we catch it. So you being able to share that experience on the back end, okay, look, this is how you get in and drive the car, so to speak, is impressive. Now, you are an author. You've written books. You share, and thank you so much for everything you shared so far. But if you don't mind, Your most recent book. Tell listeners a little bit about that.
So the most recent one that I have is really geared towards real estate agents and trying to help agents, just this influx of new agents into the business over the last couple of years. The hot market tends to attract agents that follow along. And the
Mm-hmm.
barrier to entry, I don't know how it is there in South Carolina, but in Kentucky, the barrier to entry to becoming a real estate agent is very, very low. So there's a lot of just undertrained agents that are out there, and a lot of them that end up investing a lot of time and money on the front side, but end up flaming out after a couple of years because they just don't have the guidance. And so what
Mm-hmm.
I've tried to do is take the 6 most common mistakes that I've seen, not only from myself, but helping new agents in the business. As I mentioned, I lead 21 agents that are out there.
Mm-hmm.
And so taking those mistakes and trying to help agents recognize and avoid them on the front side to shorten and flatten that learning curve. And so that's
Mm-hmm.
what I did is I just took these mistakes. And my last couple of books, first few I wrote, I was selling on Amazon. It was a great little additional revenue stream for me. But as I got to a point where I really wanted to have more impact and more scale and actually truly help people, somebody said, man, he was like, you're charging this money for your books. He was like, but if you're genuinely interested in helping people, you need to put your money where your mouth is. And I
Mm-hmm.
said, okay, why not? So I made my last 2 books, one on real estate investing, one for these agents and the mistakes that they're making. I made them absolutely free. I made them ebooks only, but they're absolutely
Mm-hmm.
free. People can go and download them and do whatever they want with them.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully they'll be able to come away with a couple of nuggets out of there that will help keep them in the business just a little bit longer, because that's all it is. It's all about longevity and sticking around. This great quote by the actor Kevin Bacon, who, you think about it, because they mentioned it, it's crazy to think he's been around, but he's been a movie star. I mean, Footloose came out in 1982. It's 40 years ago. Dude's been
Uh-huh.
making hits for 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, so what's the secret to longevity? And he said, man, he said, there is no secret to longevity. He said, longevity is the secret. Sometimes it's
Mm-hmm.
just about hanging on and hanging through
Mm-hmm.
the tough times. And if
Mm-hmm.
anything that I can do to help people hang through those tough times and to shorten that flatten that learning curve for them, I'm going to try to do in any way I can. So that's why I wrote these 2 most recent books.
Mm, that's awesome, man. And it's interesting that you should share that. So I'm gonna take part of our conversation today, my man, is a degree of confirmation of the same. We gain experience in what it is that we do. And I'll say this briefly. I just recently had a conversation. One of my agents, along with a partner, called me and wanted to run a scenario by me in relationship to a prospective investment deal they were looking at. And in turn, in my somewhat immediate response, I just kind of went rattling and just, I mean, because that's what we do. I mean,
Yeah.
Luke, you know it. So you just start rattling it all off. And I'm rattling this thing off. And the partners, it just, when I got to the end of it, it's like, look, you should be a speaker or something. You should, write a book with all this stuff, right? Because we go through that. So let's talk about the 40 houses, man. I mean, first of all, that's impressive as a single, as an investor, as you rack up and accumulate doors, and your strategy. Some of this stuff just kind of, like you said, just fell in your lap. But you said everything. You've done single doors, you've done
Multifamily.
multi-family, small apartment buildings. What is your preference? Like, if you had to go back and say, look, if I can have all of this kind of property, all of that kind of property, what kind of property would that be, and why?
It's pretty simple for me. I mean, Some of it is in relation just to my market and the way that it works. But I
Mm-hmm.
love just small little single family houses, like 2 to 3 bed, 1 to 2 bath in a very just kind of blue collar area. People who we have a lot of warehouses and factory work here. And so those blue collar, those, like I said, 2 to 3 beds. I don't like anything significantly larger because it tends to attract more people, which, tends to have more wear and tear. The multifamily that we've got here, unless you're able to get into like big multifamily, like 12, 24, 36 units, the kind of 4 and 6 and 8 plexes that we have around here, the numbers just don't really work for what I'm looking for. They're not appreciating as much. The rents aren't rising quite as much. They tend to, if they do have a decent purchase price in relation to the rents, they've got a lot of deferred maintenance that's on them. And so I'm looking for stuff, I mean, honestly, pre-2020, so kind of the 2018, 2019, I could find a really good rent-ready house that I wouldn't have to put a dime into for $70,000 that was going to rent for $750 a month. And it was like, give me all those I can get. But, now we're kind of looking at, the market has appreciated significantly. So now we're looking at like 115,000 that's going to rent for $995 a month, $1,000 a month, somewhere right in there. And again, I still really like those. They're appreciating significantly faster than these fourplexes that I'm finding. And again, the fourplexes that are around here, they tend to need a lot of repair, and there's a lot that's going on with them that it's a risk that just isn't worth it for me. So for me, I like it very, very basic, and just give me those small little single families that I can just keep turning over and just turn 1 into 2, 2 into 4, 4 into 8, and just build the portfolio that way.
So, one of the things we've been kind of working our listeners through, Luke, has been that where do you start and all that stuff. So thank you for sharing kind of where your preferences are, because we have some people that are really focused on, like you are, like, single door, whether it's a single detached door. Some prefer attached units because obviously condo or townhouse, the maintenance sometimes is a little bit less. You got less yard to worry about, if any yard to worry about. Some of your other expenses and stuff kind of get absorbed in other places. So we stress to our people, number one, to identify what is their preference as quickly as possible. And sometimes they don't know until they experience it. You buy a detached door and find out, well, I got to put a roof on, I got to do this, I got to do all this other stuff. I don't want that. So maybe the next property I move myself to, I transition out of this into that. Because you made mention of some of the properties that you purchased, you have moved on. So you have sold those properties and acquired others. So let me ask you this. We talk about the Stock Exchange, which is a 1031. Are you leveraging investment tools such as that, or those type of strategies in your business as well?
We are, where it's necessary and appropriate. We pride ourselves on being pretty creative and kind of outside the box thinking, which kind of led us to, how were we able to come up with 13 doors to begin with? And so that strategy, it held strong and it led us in the right direction on the front side. And so we've kind of stuck with that. So in certain instances, yes, the 1031 does work. Sometimes you get burnt on a few 1031s every now and then, where you don't identify enough properties or you don't secure them the right way. And so you're under contract to sell yours, and something falls through with the deal that you're going to purchase, and you end up, eating some taxes. But it's all okay. We work through and figure it out. But again, we're open to just about anything if it makes sense and it meets our goals, visions, and values. And that's the thing. My partner and I, we are trying to provide quality and affordable housing that's out there where we can still turn a profit and experience some cash flow along with some appreciation, but still making sure that we're providing quality and affordable housing for folks out there that need it.
And that itself, Luke, is a mission. So thank you for sharing that piece as well. Before we get too far, tell listeners, how can they get in contact with you? Where can they find you at? How can they reach you if they have questions or have a need or what have you?
Sure. You can find me on social, Luke Andrews RE for Luke Andrews Real Estate. I tell people you can email me at any point, Luke@lukeandrews.us. I answer all of my own emails. I don't have a VA or anything doing that. Anybody that just wants to talk real estate, if it's about, if it's an agent that wants to talk through different sales strategies, if it's an investor that wants to talk through some things, I love talking about this stuff. And so I love doing those things. They can reach out anytime. Or if it's an agent or an investor who is interested, like in some of the books that you talked about, some of the free stuff. If you're an investor, you can go to 10investormistakes.com, and that's the number 10. So 10investormistakes.com. Or if you're an agent, 6agentmistakes.com. And again, that's the number 6. But 10investormistakes.com, 6agentmistakes.com. Anybody can go out there. They can take a look at those books. And then that'll give them an opportunity as well. If they wanted to, they can join my email list that way, whatever they want. Like I said, I just love talking to people about this. The word you used is fantastic. I have a mission here, and I'm just trying to have this scale and this impact. So that's why I've been going on these shows. That's why I'm trying to get on more stages. Just get up and just share a message and try to help in any way I can.
Well, man, you've provided a wealth of information, to our listeners, Luke. So again, thank you so much for that. Because, sometimes, man, we just get so caught up in just this one little piece that we miss all the other things. Real estate investing or any type of investing is not a one size fits all. If it was a science, if it was yellow and blue made green, then to be blunt about it, you'd have all the green that you could ever want. You know what I'm saying? But the reality is that it is doors and people that make money in real estate, or this and that makes money in whatever else that other thing is. And our listeners, the people who are watching or listening to this show, or who may be coming back with their pen and paper to make notes, they have to understand and figure out what is going to work for them. Your strategy, what has worked for you, is your strategy. It works, but the people have to work, and it has to be the right model and so forth for them. Now,
Yes,
you've purchased, you say, so you really like single doors, which is interesting because a lot of people, from a mindset, the thought process perspective, and that works in your market where you are, where you invest. Some people maybe somewhere else maybe need to focus on more doors. Maybe they want, small apartment buildings, 8 plexes or larger. So that may work as well. And you educate people through your books and everything, as far as how to overcome the whole mistakes. I went to the website, man. For our listeners, guys, that's a quick download, 10investormistakes.com. Quickly download that ebook and get the cracking in there.
Can I provide a quick disclaimer on that? If you were part of the grammar police, it's probably not the right spot for you. I'm a simple kid from Kentucky. I write like I talk. So what you're hearing right now is what you're going to get in this book. So if you see misplaced commas or paragraph structure, and it's going to kind of give you the twitches, which my wife is one of those people, it's probably not the right spot for you. But, if you're just looking for just kind of some real talk, it's a good place to go.
That is priceless. I love the disclaimer, man. I love the disclaimer because that's what it's about. So, like guys, Luke is delivering this message just like he's delivering that book, just like he's delivering this message, which is full frontal. Let's go get it. This is what it is, and let's make it happen. So, Luke, as we kind of get to the end of today's show, what is a key takeaway, a key nugget that you want to share with our listeners, something they can take, quote unquote, stick in their craw and make a difference in their trajectory and their outcome as they seek to build their legacy?
Well, let me ask you, do you want a nugget for investors or do you want a nugget for agents? Which one you want to?
I'll tell you what, Luke, in this forum, we are all in. So give us both. Let's start with the investor.
All right. So the investor, I think it's a two-pronged approach. One, you need to remember that you always make your money on real estate investing when you buy, not when you sell. So it's about that deal that you get. You can always sell. You can wait for the market to appreciate, and you can always sell for more, but you can never change what you buy for. And then number two is make sure that you have a good, solid team in place. Having a real estate professional there on the front side that can guide you through that, having your trades in place, your property managers, your title companies, your attorneys, your CPAs, your attorney, all of those people, you got to make sure that you've got a good team in place that's there working for you. Now, from an agent perspective, with the market shifting, yours is probably shifting similar to ours, and investors are starting to heat up a little bit. They've been kind of on the sidelines the last couple of years, but it's, the market slowed down just slightly. And so they're kind of coming out of the woodwork.
Mm-hmm.
What I told my agents, one, I think all my agents need to be investing in real estate or at least strongly considering it. We don't have a true retirement plan here, and
Mm-hmm.
invest in something you know. If it is good enough for a Fortune 500 CEO to take a big part of their compensation in company stock because that's what they work in and what they know, it is good enough for you to go out and buy these properties. So I think you need to be investing in that. And even if you're not, even if you think that there's only a slight chance you can get it done, if you set a goal to buy an investment property this year, I guarantee that you're going to sell at least 3 more properties this year. You're going to add 3 transactions to your bottom line at the end of the year. And the reason being is if you're committed to buying a property this year, you're going to be out there searching on a regular basis, which means you are going to come across a lot of deals. And a lot of them are going to be really good deals, but they don't quite fit into what you're looking for. Maybe it's priced slightly out of your reach. Maybe it's only running at a 7 cap and you needed it at a 9 to meet your criteria. Those are still great deals. And then that allows you to go out and present those deals to investors. My agents ask me all the time, how do I get more investor clients? I say, that's easy. You go out and find deals. Don't worry about finding the investor, find the investment. If you find the investment, the investors are easy. If it makes money, they're coming through. So if you set a goal to go out and buy a rental property this year, you are going to add at least 3 transactions because you're going to come across a minimum of 3 that don't quite meet your criteria that you're going to be able to sell to somebody else, and you're just going to make somebody else very, very happy.
That, man, look, you echoed what I say oftentimes in my own office with our own group, man, because that's what it's about. You got to focus on this piece of it. And my running joke, which is a reality in our industry, is that there is no retirement plan. There's no retirement parties for realtors. And in turn, most of them going to fall over at the table trying to get that one last closing in. And that's the one to take them on to glory. So look, I appreciate you sharing that. Key takeaways. So Luke, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, man, for being here on the show, taking your time again to drop such awesome information, man. It's a very inspirational, motivational, and most importantly, it is accurate information. So thank you so much for that.
No, it's been a ton of fun. I really appreciate you having me on.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So for our listeners, guys, look, y'all take this information. Y'all go back. Y'all go to our website, Exit Strategy Radio Show. Y'all make sure y'all pull this episode. Make sure you get Luke's contact information. But most importantly, make sure that you write the notes for the questions that you may have. Reach out so we can make sure that Luke gets those questions answered for you and see what he can do to help you. What I always say to you guys, and you know what I say, you know how I say it, but I want you to understand, and most importantly today, that I really, 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 really mean it every time I say it, which is I love you, I love you, I love you. And we're going to see you guys out there in those streets.